Hello everybody, my name's Quentin and I just thought I'd share with you today some tips and tricks that I found quite useful while using the Mac over the last rather large number of years. Some things which perhaps aren't immediately obvious, particularly for new users, and I hope that there are maybe some things here that even if you've been using the Mac quite a long time, you might not know and so might be helpful. Let's get straight down to it. So the first thing I thought we would talk about here is on a typical window that you may have open on the screen. I'm using a Word document here, but this applies to all sorts of other things. This little icon here on the left, this is a representation of the file that this document is saved in much the same way as its icon on in the Finder window would be. So if, for example, you're composing an email and you want to include this document in it, you can just drag that little icon straight to your email message or your tweet or your iMessage or WhatsApp or whatever. So that is much the same as saving it, going and finding it in the Finder and dragging the icon from the Finder into your document. It's quite useful. Now, one thing to note is you won't be able to do this if you haven't yet saved this document because it won't have a file on the disk to refer to. On newer applications, this sometimes looks a bit different. So if I open this, this is just an image in preview of my spaniel, and here you can do the same thing, but you have to go up and hover over the name at the top, and then you can see the little icon appears, and you can drag that there as well. Now, one other useful tip on these icons at the top of the screen, I don't know if they have a proper name, if you press Command while you're clicking on it, then you get to see where this file is in your file system, which is actually really quite useful. For example, if I'm looking at this file and I want to see the folder that it's in, I can click on there. Well, this is desktop, so it's not a good example, but imagine it was somewhere else deep in your file system. This is a very good way of getting to the folder that contains this file. So a second quick tip here is for people who use the command line a lot, either in the terminal or like many people, use iTerm2, which is sort of enhanced version of the terminal, but basically this works the same way for both. If you go and get that icon there, or indeed any file that you might have in any folder, if you drag it somewhere which is expecting text, then it turns into the file name. So this is quite useful if you're wanting to do something with this in the command line. That's a very quick way of getting the file name for that particular file. If you're going the other way, a very useful command on the terminal in the Mac is called open. And open, if you give it a file, will use the default application to open that file, much as if you double-clicked it in the Finder. And if you maybe have navigated somewhere on your file system and you want to open that directory, you can just say open dot or open the name of a particular directory, and it's come on my other screen. There you go, and that opens up that window for you in the Finder. So that's quite useful if you use the command line. Now here's something I find really counterintuitive and really useful. This is one you're unlikely to discover by yourself if you don't already know it. Imagine you're in an application and you're doing something like file save as or file open here, and you want to save this into a folder which isn't anywhere close to the folder you're looking at here. In fact, maybe I want to save it into my Cornwall 2020 folder, which is over here. Now, I could go here, pick, oh no, I need to pick that. No, I don't. I need to burrow all the way through the file system here to get to wherever that Cornwall 2020 folder is. Quite possible, but it's a real pain. Now, the nice thing is, and this is the counterintuitive thing, if you have a window open that shows a folder, then you can drag it into an open or save dialog like this, and it will cause that dialog box to change to that folder. It's really weird because you think it's going to do copy or something like that. So this is very bizarre, but it's a really useful shortcut. So any folder you have in the Finder, let's imagine, let's pick something else here. I might want to save it under bikes here. I drag that here, boom, and you see what happens is that this window changes to the directory that I've dragged into it. Let's do an example file open here, and I'm looking at my desktop. I want to open something. This is a PDF, so I can't really open it, but I want to open something in this directory. I go there, drag and drop, and then I can just click open. And if you're working in a particular directory in the folder here, you may well find that really handy shortcut to get there. Okay, let's talk about copying and pasting files. So here's my letter to Fred, and I can copy it there, or do Command C, and it's now copied. And suppose I want to move somewhere very different. Let's go into my Synology drive and Quentin and letters, and here I can right click and do paste item, or I can just hit Command V, and there is a copy of my letter to Fred. But suppose, I'm going to delete that for a moment. Suppose what you wanted to do, let's go back to the original. Suppose what you wanted to do was move it. Now, this is a bit weird, but you would expect that you would be able to do cut rather than copy, but there isn't a cut option here. And what you actually have to do is you do copy, and so let's go to my destination. Here, letters. If I right click, you can see there's paste. If I hold down option, you can see move item here. So, and similarly, I can do option command V, and there it is, and it's moved it to this new location. So this is very bizarre. For a long time, you couldn't actually do this at all on the Mac, but for some reason, and I think there may be good underlying technical reasons, you can't do cut and paste. You have to do copy and option paste, or alt paste, which is very weird. But once you get used to it, it's pretty straightforward. One thing you probably know on the Mac, and certainly if you've come from Windows, you can hold down Alt-Tab, I think it is on Windows, to switch between all of the different windows on your screen. On the Mac it's Command-Tab, and as I press and hold Command here and hit Tab, I can cycle through and, for example, then release the command when I get to the app I'm interested in. One thing that's handy as well, you may not know, is if you are if you're going through a large number like this, if you can manage to hold down Command-Shift-Tab, you'll go back in the opposite order. So Command-Tab and Command-Shift-Tab will let you switch through the applications. Now, what you don't see here is every window on your machine. You only see every application. So let's go to Safari here, where I have multiple windows open. Then you use Command backtick. So backtick is usually the key that's just to the right of your left-hand Shift key. And if I do Command backtick, then I switch between all of the windows in that application. So it's slightly different from the Microsoft world. Now, there's one really useful shortcut I find if I've got lots of things on my screen and I want to close them down. When you're holding Command Tab like this, so again, or I'm holding down the Command key, I'm tapping Tab to go through here. If you want to close one of these applications, then as I go through, I can just hit, let's go to here, I can just hit Q. And that quits, and I can go here. That one I don't have any windows open. I can close that. Maps I can close, and you'll see as I go through here, you can't. Let's go back to Word, Q. So going Command Tab and then going through and hitting Q is a really quick way to close down a lot of your applications. And then you just release Command when you're finished. So here's a quick tip for QuickTime Player and Preview. Imagine you're looking at this video clip here, which I took in Cornwall around the New Year, and you decide that we want to find a nice poster image, maybe to use. Let's go. Yes, there you go. A nice view of the lighthouse. So let's imagine I want to capture a still image from this point in the video. Now, in the old days, QuickTime Player would do this for you, but it hasn't done it for quite a long time. But it turns out there's a really easy way to do this. If you do copy or hit Command C, then what you actually capture is that particular still image. So that's now in your clipboard, which means you can do various things with it. Probably the easiest way to turn it straight into an image is to fire up Preview here. When Preview says, what do you want to open? You say nothing. Instead you go File, New from Clipboard, and there you'll see we have the image that we've just captured. Now, there are other ways you can do this. Of course, you can use different video players which are able to save still images directly, or indeed you could do a screen capture, but if you do a screen capture, you're going to get whatever resolution you happen to have on the screen at the time when you did it, whereas when you do the copy a still image from QuickTime Player and paste it somewhere else, you do get the full resolution of the video image, which you might then go File, Save, and save it as a JPEG, perhaps as the poster frame that you then want to load into Photoshop and make a nice poster for your YouTube video or something. While we're looking at preview, very quick, my favorite shortcut, the thing I'm using preview most often for, is if you want to crop this image, you simply drag out a rectangle and do Command K. And let's do a little bit more. There you go, Command K. And that's a really useful shortcut. You can find it in the menus as well, but it's something I'm doing all the time in preview, so it's useful to know. Drag out the area, hit Command K, and then you can do File, Save for your cropped version of the image. I'm going to call Lighthouse. There you go. So that's a very quick process for getting a still image from a video to a file on your disk that you can use for something else. Okay, and here's one last little tip. Using Photos, the Apple Photos app on the Mac. Does it ever bug you that when you go into the library here, you might end up somewhere way in the middle of your thousands and thousands of photos and you have to scroll and scroll for ages to get to the top or the bottom? Well, there's a convenient shortcut. If you click on the library icon again, it takes you to your most recent photos. Isn't that handy? So then you can find the photo that you wanted to send Granny, which you just took a moment or two ago. So wherever you may be, just click on the library icon and it'll take you to your most recent photos. And this works on the phone as well, which is even more important because scrolling there can be much more hassle than scrolling on a computer screen. So there you are. I hope some of those were useful. Hope you liked them. If you did, please click the little button to say so. And if you wanted to subscribe, you would find completely random stuff that I put out from time to time on this channel, but you never know. You might like some of it. Thanks very much. Bye.